Live from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studios in the great state of New Hampshire and the Gurkha Cigar Studios in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Kevin Acuff.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome from fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. As you can see, there's maybe we're like a square short tonight. You know, our beloved host Matthew Tobacco is feeling a little under the weather, so he asked me to step in and take host duties tonight. So says I guess a lot. He definitely trusts me enough to be able to. So, as always, our cigars on the show are brought to you by twoguyscigars.com. That's right, that's the number 2, guyscigars.com, where you find an amazing selection of cigars that you know and love, and maybe a few you haven't tried before. So order some stuff today at the number 2, guyscigars.com. So as you can see, Ian's joined us. Ian, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Thank you. Good. Don't worry, you got this.
I got this.
You got this, man. You're doing a great job.
It's been quite a while since I got to see you. I think we talked just briefly at the trade show, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to have
it's been a bit.
Got to have a major hangout. I remember the first time that I met you was at one of your events here in Vegas at Helios Cigars. And that was a fun event. That was great for you to come out, introduce the brand, and get some cigars in people's hands that they've probably never seen before. So it is very good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, very good to see you guys. Yeah, sorry, Matt's feeling under the weather. I'm just getting over a cold myself, so I haven't been smoking. Trying to get on the other side of this. Seems like it's going around.
Yeah, this seems like the illnesses have definitely been making the rounds. I know it's taken out a few people in my office over the past week. Fortunately, I've been able to stay away from it. I have been taking the whiskey medicine on a regular basis. I figure, if you drink cask strength whiskey, that'll probably kill just about any virus that you could get. So it'd be good to go.
I haven't tried that one.
That and a few cigars a day will keep the doctor away, right?
Yeah. I haven't heard the cask strength whiskey. I'll have to try that.
It definitely works. I love the higher proof stuff, like the 123, 125 proof rise. I like the burn. It seems like that definitely drives the flavor forward.
I think I'd have heartburn for a week if I did that.
So, Ian, you're based in SoCal, right?
Central Cal.
Central Cal.
I wish I was in SoCal. SoCal's got a lot nicer weather. No, we're in Central California in Fresno. We're about right in the middle of the state. So,
okay.
Maybe 3 hours from LA, 3 hours from San Francisco, 3 hours from Sacramento, 3 hours from the coast, an hour from Yosemite. So kind of like just right in the middle of the state.
So that's kind of cool. So do you actually probably get a little bit more temperate weather, I would imagine?
Oh, it's hot as balls here.
Oh, is it really?
It's
like high desert like us then?
Yeah, it's very hot. It's mostly agricultural land out here. You're about an hour away from the coast or from the foothills going towards Yosemite. So obviously, you could drive 45 minutes from here and you probably drop 15 degrees. But in the valley itself is pretty miserably hot. It's just now starting to cool down this week.
So you're pretty much just like we are here in Vegas. Then got the heat in the valley, but we got Mount Charleston that's about a half hour away, and you can go up and
Yep.
it's 30 degrees cooler when you get up there.
Yep. That's exactly it. Vegas might be a touch hotter, but it's probably very similar in terms of weather. Yeah. Not great.
No, not at all. So tonight, guys, I am smoking one of Ian's cigars. I'm smoking the El Borracho. It's a box press cigar, natural wrapper. One of my favorites. Ian, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are not familiar with your line. So, how about if you just kind of give us a rundown on your core lines, the names of the cigars, and the wrappers that are available?
Yeah. El Borracho, or the drunkard, what that means in English, comes in both a San Andreas and a broadleaf wrapper, probably about medium to full, depending on which one you get. The broadleaf seems to be a little bit more fuller than the San Andreas. Um, then we have our La Madrina line, which is the godmother, and that's got a Connecticut shade wrapper or a Habano wrapper, Ecuadorian Habano Rosado wrapper. Those are in that medium to medium full, depending on which one of those you have.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have our Siempre line, that comes in a sun grown, which is an Ecuadorian sun grown Sumatra wrapper. It also comes in a Siempre dark rosado, which is a very, very dark rosado, high priming wrapper. The sun grown is going to be probably more on the medium side, and the dark rosado is probably going to be on the much more full side in terms of strength, profile, nicotine, etc. Then we have our Desvelito line. Desvelitos kind of roughly translates to the underdog. That one is it comes in a blue band and it comes in a red band. The blue variant is an Ecuadorian Rosado wrapper. The red variant is also a Rosado wrapper. It's just a darker, higher priming wrapper. And both of those are same deal, kind of in that medium side to medium full. The darker one, or the red band one, is called the Diesla because that's named after Raul Diesla, and that one's a little bit more full bodied. We have our original Kubo line. We have the Kubo Sumatra, which is the Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper. It's a lighter Sumatra wrapper. And then we make some short or mixed filled cigars. They used to be called Major Mikes. Now they're called Major Dicks. Um, we make that in a shade, and we make that in Habano wrapper. We also have small cigars that are called Union Breaks. Those come in a broadleaf Connecticut shade or a Connecticut shade broadleaf barber pole, and they're little 4x32 sweet tip cigars. And then we have what else do we have? Am I missing? We do a cigar called Cubana Crew Shade. That's a Connecticut shade wrapper with a light sweet tip, similar to a Baccarat.
Okay.
Um, and we make a cigar we make a lot of house cigars, and we also make some private label cigars. Lately, probably the most recent one was the one we make for the Holy Smoke Group. That's a box press San Andreas Figurado cigar, medium bodied. That's a limited kind of edition thing. And
You beat me to the
then we've
punch on
got
that
some,
one.
yeah, we've got some other cigars coming out that are extensions of the old lines, and also some completely new cigars. So yeah, all in all, I think that probably covers the range of our core lines today.
So you guys definitely have basically a cigar for everybody. You have, from if you like the sweet tips and the little cigars up to to the full body heavyweight hard hitters. It seems like you have something that will satisfy every palate.
Yeah, I mean, I think most cigar smokers, like, maybe not the ones on talk shows, but most of them are kind of in that medium realm.
Mm-hmm.
We, do we make cigars for every palate? Not yet, but we don't have ultra premium cigars in the sense that there are cigars that are priced, may say above $25 or $30 a cigar. We
Right.
don't make a lot of large ring gauges right now. So if you're somebody that likes to smoke a 60 gauge, we only make that in our mixed fillered bundled cigars, but we don't make them in our core lines currently. And we don't really make a lot of super high nicotine cigars. We have a couple of them that are fuller bodied. The
Hmm.
Siempre Dark Rosado is probably the most, but yeah, so we don't have like super full bodied cigars yet. But for most, I would say like 90% of cigar smoking, we probably or 80% of cigar smoking, we probably have something in that wheelhouse.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the comment about the about the medium, the medium strength, medium body. I mean, I love Habanos. I love Connecticut's, but I mean, San Andreas and PA broadleaf are I'm a PA broadleaf junkie, so I definitely like the darker, richer, heavier hitting cigars. But
Yeah,
there's definitely nothing wrong with having cigars that don't have a lot of nicotine in them, because I think that actually opens up brand to a lot of people. Because that seems some limiting factors of some of these cigars that have these wrappers on them. The nicotine content is so high. Amateur smokers and whatnot, they have a hard time you know
yeah,
getting around them and enjoying them without getting the nicotine spins or the nicotine sweats or whatnot. So it's really good to be able to taste and experience something like this and
right.
not have the nicotine shakes to go along with it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll use a lot of PA broadleaf, but when we use the PA broadleaf, um, uh, we usually use it in the fillers. So we'll try to impose a little bit of strength and a little bit of that
Hmm.
nicotine pop by putting it in the filler of the cigar versus having the entire wrapper as that as PA broadleaf as example. Same with Connecticut broadleaf. We have a couple Connecticut broadleaf um,
Uh-huh.
wrappered cigars, but the typical uses for us is either in the binder or in the filler to give it extra smoke production, a little bit of sweetness, minerality, etc.
Right. I mean, I have to assume Connecticut broadleaf is still one of the more difficult tobaccos to source.
Supposedly, that's kind of the that's been the I guess that's been the prevailing theme in the last 10 years of cigars. You know,
Well, it doesn't sound like you're too awful affected by that, so that's actually a good thing. You guys planned ahead or planned right
yeah,
or bought right.
yeah. I mean, we have good partners with Oliva Tobacco and Noxa, and they're ahead of the ball game on that. And we don't, I mean, I guess if we were General Cigar or AJ Fernandez or something where you're producing millions and millions of cigars and you have a really huge demand of that, then it might be an
Hmm.
issue. I can see how that could be an issue. But at our production level, still being a boutique company, and with the folks that we're tied with on the backside of it, on the farming and the processing and on the factory, uh, we've been all right. So that's been kind of a blessing for us.
Right on. I heard you mention Oliva tobacco. So are they the prime, or are they the sole suppliers of the tobacco that you use?
They're the primary supplier of most of our wrappers that are, most
Okay.
everybody's wrappers that come from Ecuador are typically through Oliva or the Perez family if you're using the Connecticut shade wrapper. Um,
Okay.
but they also have access to a lot of other tobaccos, whether it's Connecticut broadleaf or whether it's tobacco from the DR, tobacco from Honduras, etc. And even in Nicaragua, so we're able to get access to a lot of that tobacco. That helps us with you know having um, maybe more complex blends and maybe more complex flavor profiles versus just using one primary source of tobacco for your fillers and binder, which is what I think you see a lot. A lot of folks will do
Hmm.
that. You'll probably only see maybe one country of origin for the filler, possibly the binder, and then combine that with a non you know uh, Ecuadorian wrapper or a U.S.
Hmm.
Connecticut broadleaf wrapper or something like that. That's typically when you see the stat sheets.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm looking through my notes so I can ask right things. Factories. I see. It looks like a good majority of your cigars are produced at Noxa in Nicaragua.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah. Today, most all of our production is produced at Noxa. Yeah, and that's been the way for the last 5 years or 6 years or so, maybe longer now. I haven't been counting COVID, but yeah, for the predominant part of probably the last 6, 7 years, it's all been Noxa. Oh, look at that! I didn't know we had comments.
Hey, how about that?
Nice.
So you can definitely, yeah, you can go into the comments and talk to the audience for sure. Now, when did you found and start Dapper Cigars, Ian?
So this is officially our 10th year as of January, um, as an official business. So
Awesome.
we're almost 11 years old now because January would be our 11th year technically. So that would be what I think it's 2014.
Hmm.
January 2014 um, was our official founding date.
Well, happy belated anniversary, or I guess happy early
Yeah,
anniversary. We're closer to
yeah,
the next one than we are to the past one. So
right.
congratulations
Yeah,
there. It's
yeah.
good to
Thanks.
see that because it's definitely, I mean, more so than anybody, it's definitely not an easy business to get in and grind the grind and make it successful. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a very very difficult business for just in general, and I think even on the smaller side of companies, it's it's very difficult to make it through even like 5 years. So it's kind of shocking that even that we've made it to 10.
Yeah, I would say I definitely have seen some boutiques come in, and it seems like that 4 or 5 year mark is where they said, okay, I've had enough. I'm going to sell the brand and move on, or it just disappears and you never hear of it again. So it's very encouraging to see you guys. You've
Yeah.
dug your heels in and have got through that next 5 years, and you're starting to see more and more from the brand, and that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's difficult, and the last 10 years also included a lot of stuff for the FDA, which was uh, cumbersome, and then right after the FDA pieces, you have COVID, which at the beginning of it was quite the shit show, and then as it
Oh
got
yeah,
into it was good, from a business perspective, but it's been a weird 10 years. That's for sure.
yeah. You guys it seems really like COVID changed the industry, right? So did I mean, in the end of it, I mean, just like you said, it was a shit show at the beginning. Overall, do you think Dapper has had was there a positive impact? I mean, there seemed to be really like an increase in the business and an increase in consumption and consumer purchasing of cigars. Did you guys see a bump from that?
From COVID,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think everybody did. I think COVID was good for the cigar business in general, just because you know there was a lot. You know, there was a lot of yeah, I don't know from an economic perspective, but I think there was a lot of money available to people during COVID,
Hmm.
um, and a lot more folks had a lot more time to smoke cigars because maybe instead of working in an office all day long, they're working from home, and and you're not really traveling as much. So I think maybe people were more they were more on board with having a cigar on the patio versus maybe going on vacations, etc. Because they
Right.
couldn't. So I think it was really good. It was hard because you couldn't. There was a lot of things going on at that time that there was a lot of transportation issues. I remember just
Hmm.
trucking product back and forth was a big issue. It was expensive. There were a lot of delays. Um, uh, and there was also a lot of political turmoil at the time in Nicaragua. People don't remember there were basically government. issues with, I believe it had to do with them paying, certain owed amounts to the workers and the workers
Hmm.
or the prior workers' retirement type things. And so there was this huge, like, kind of coup almost going on, and the roads were blocked. And so it was really challenging just to even get the cigars into the country. And then you had to deal with they had to deal with all the COVID stuff down there, all the craziness that went on. They probably dealt with it a little bit better than, maybe we did, in the sense that um, they didn't shut everything down,
Right.
for a while, and they kind of took some other probably different therapeutic approaches, which I think worked out for them better. But yeah, it was an interesting time, but from a business perspective, it was very good. I think most cigar companies did real well because they didn't. You had high consumer demand, and you didn't have a lot of the expenses that were incurred to sell cigars normally.
Right.
Retailers weren't doing a lot of events, so you didn't have salespeople traveling a lot because they didn't need to travel, they couldn't travel. So you had your travel expenses cut down. You didn't have your event uh, costs, like, even trade show costs. You didn't have,
Hmm.
one year trade shows were skipped basically, except for maybe TPE. Um, and there was a high consumer demand. So, lower cost, high consumer demand, all worked out pretty well during that time. But, I think we're kind of going through the maybe the aftermath of that all. And, I don't think for everyone it's as good as it was then,
Hmm.
but that was a rare kind of 1 year of time.
So you kind of had that big spike right there, and I mean that definitely. I've
Yeah,
never really thought about how you just said it. The trade show cost is a big one because, I do remember we
yeah,
did get TPE in that year because I remember seeing it at the show there, and then the world literally shut down about a month and a half later. So I mean, definitely
yeah,
crazy there. So I guess
yeah.
especially as a smaller boutique brand, not having that trade show cost in that year, that had to be a major boon.
Yeah, not having the trade show costs, not having the traveling costs, not having all those normal things that you're used to, um, and also having a high demand. Retailers were just, there was such a lack of product that retailers were just happy to really get any product sometimes, and
Hmm.
so that puts you in a better position for not having to discount normally, like you might have to discount in order to make certain sales with retailers. And at that time, you didn't really have to do a lot of that. So yeah, it turns out when you give a bunch of people a bunch of money, it's kind of good for a while.
Hey, imagine that. It's funny how that works, right?
It's kind of good for a while.
Absolutely, it is. Hey, everybody likes money, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So before I get into the next thing, I actually want to thank one of our sponsors. As always, our cutters and lighters on the show are brought to you by ST Dupont. That's right. Shake up the legacy with ST Dupont. I actually have two different ones that I'm using here tonight. I have the Defi Extreme in petrol blue, and then I have the Maxi Jet in the floral blue. These have literally become two of my favorite lighters to use. I love them to death, and definitely recommend that everybody try one. So, Ian, earlier on, you had mentioned Holy Smokes as a special project. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I can. So it's just a biblical group. I don't know if it's biblical, but it's more of a men's group with a biblical kind of underpinning. And it was started in Fresno, California. I knew the guys that were part of that group, and they kind of originally started it with a group of guys, and it was a way for them to have kind of a men's group that would meet once a week over a cigar. Kind of the meeting would last as long as maybe it would take to smoke a cigar.
Mhm.
They wanted to do their own cigar as kind of like a way to show off the group and get new members, as well as a way to as something to basically show their existing members, gratitude and thanks for being part of this group. So yeah, a couple of them reached out to me. They asked me if I'd be interested in making a cigar for them. And they were, no matter what I told them, they still were pretty game about it, even though I kind of convinced them that it might not be the best thing for you to do. It's a arduous process. It's, there's a lot of costs involved. It's, there's a lot of things that would be a detractor, but they were game for all of it. And so we worked over the next 2 years to work on a blend and get the packaging correct and get the banding produced and all those elements. And it came to fruition. And so we distribute that out to retailers for them with plans that we would be eventually selling some of those cigars just to their members, and we take the proceeds from that, and it goes back to the group to fund more of those groups. And I think at this time there's several of those groups around, or factions, or whatever they call that are part of the group, but they're all around the country, whether it's on the East Coast or Texas or wherever. And so they're growing quite big all over the place. So yeah, it's a cool thing. Cigar's good too.
That's actually a really cool project. I mean, talk about thinking outside the box. I mean, if we're a biblical group and want to do a cigar, I mean, what better way to just, kind of sit and relax and talk about your thing. I mean, that's one of the things I know. It's kind of as a rule, in a cigar lounge, you don't really talk about politics, religion, or anything like that. But for a religious group, to be able to sit and talk and have the discussions about the Bible and be able to sit and relax with a cigar at the same time, that's actually, there's a high cool factor to that. There really is.
Yeah, and I say biblical, but I think really they want it more to be about a men's group per se.
Mm-hmm.
And it does have obviously the biblical underpinnings of it, but they're very open to getting people from all walks of life that want to sit down and congregate with a group of men, and hopefully for support and encouragement and that sort of thing. And I know a lot of the meetings, they're so large now that they happen that they've grown beyond the size of sometimes a cigar shop. So they have these group meetings at offsite locations, people's backyards, and it seems like every week there's one of them going on somewhere. So yeah, it's a cool project, and that we plan to do some other stuff with them, and they have some other projects in the works with it. But yeah, it's cool. It came out really good. I was really pleased about how well everything went out from a cigar perspective as well.
That's awesome, and definitely exciting to to see how a boutique brand think outside the box and find a way to get cigars in more people's hands, and especially people that maybe have never even heard of your brand, maybe even people that have never even smoked a cigar before. To be able to get out there and try that. I mean, just definitely a unique opportunity. So congratulations on that one.
Yeah, thank you. Came out really good.
Very, very cool. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break here and read the news. Our news is brought to you by Micallef Cigars, featuring the black, rated 91 by me, the blue, and the red. And it's been a very colorful journey thus far for Micallef Cigars. And that actually brings us to our news for the week. Is Micallef has announced a release of a Smokin exclusive, and it is going to be a box press Toro version of the Micallef Black. So definitely some exciting things to see there from Micallef. It's a 6x54 box press. It's made at Micallef's factory in Esteli, and it features the distinctive San Andreas Maduro wrapper that made the Black famous. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that one develops. Dan Thompson says, we're pleased to partner with Abe and Smokin to introduce this exclusive Vitola of Micallef Black. The remarkable response we received this blend is a testament of its quality. Working with Smokin has been a positive experience, and we're excited to offer their customers a truly unique addition to the Micallef portfolio. So again, thank you, Micallef Cigars. So Ian, do you have anything new coming down the pipe or anything in the works that you can maybe talk about or maybe give us a little hint about?
Yeah, I mean, we're a little bit late on all of these, but any day now we're going to release a new cigar. It's going to have some surprises with it, and it's going to be based around our anniversary. So any day now that should come out. Once we get, we're held up by some packaging delays, as it always seems to be the issue.
Uh-huh.
We were supposed to ship a couple months ago, but it's just been delayed. So that's coming out real soon. We also have an extension of our El Borracho, which I think people really love. That's going to come out. It's going to be another sub brand, but related to El Borracho. And hopefully that will be in the quarter one of next year. So we're hoping to debut that at the PCA trade show along with along with the previous. One of them is going to be a limited edition, and the other one's going to be regular production. And then, of course, we have some other small projects where we're working with either private blends or we're working with folks like Holy Smoke that we're doing for them. So we'll probably have 3 or 4 different projects over the next year that'll come to market in some form, and some of them will be limited and some of them will be regular production.
So you guys are definitely going to be busy here over the next year for sure, keeping up with the man of what you got. Now you have some new stuff coming. I was going to ask if you were going to do anything for the 10th anniversary. So that's actually cool.
We are.
That's very, very cool to hear. And by mentioning the trade show, I'm guessing you are planning on attending the trade show in New Orleans.
Yeah, that's the plan so far. We'll be there. I'm this is, I don't know what trade show this is for me, so I'm a little trade showed out a little bit. I'm more looking forward to to maybe the food in New Orleans than I am particularly the trade show.
Oh yeah.
But we'll be there. Yeah.
That's very cool. See, for me, I'm still kind of newer to the media world. I mean, I've been around the industry since I think probably 2018. So for me, this is actually going to be the first trade show I've had to travel for. So now I'll actually get to know, what it's like for all you guys to have to travel. I mean, I'm not going to have, tons of cigars and whatnot to have to bring. We're still going to have media equipment and this and that, and still have to worry about the rental car and this and that and everything else. So it's going to be interesting. But like you said, I'm definitely looking for the food.
Yeah.
I mean,
that to me is the most exciting part of it all. I mean, we were kind of spoiled that it was in Vegas, and Fresno to Vegas is about a 6.5 hour drive. So there's a lot of things that we could just pack in the truck and take with us and not have to deal with the transportation of all of it. So this trade show will be a little different because it's in New Orleans, so we're not going to be able to just drive there in 6.5 hours. So that's going to be a little bit of a bummer, but I'm also interested to see how it's going to turn out and see. It's good because you do get to see a lot of the folks that you don't get to see normally throughout the year. But yeah, I think I'm having a little bit of trade show fatigue. So.
I mean, I guess you've been to a lot of them when you lose count, right?
It's not there's a lot of people in the business who've been to like 30 trade shows or something like that. So it's not to say that we've been to a ton of them. Maybe it's like 6th or 7th or whatever it is, but might even be more. I don't know. It's interesting. The cigar business has a very odd trade show model. I haven't quite figured it out, but it's really interesting how the trade show kind of has been for like the longest time, like the dominant kind of thing in the business in terms of, the concentration of effort into this one, week, or not even 1 week, like 3.5 days or whatever it is.
Right.
It's just, I'm not used to it, from other industries being like that,
Seems like even COVID almost even changed that to a point, where, pre-COVID, I mean, that was the place for the retailers. I mean, the retailers would go, they make their orders, and everybody in person and at the show and do it. It seems like after COVID, the in-person aspect of it, I mean, it's still a major player and a major part of it, but it doesn't seem like it plays quite the role. I mean, has your booth traffic, have you seen any reduction in traffic through your booth or traffic from retailers that you had in years past since COVID, or is it kind of about the same?
Well, certainly that year of not doing the trade show and the following year when folks came back, it was blaringly obvious that for 90% of the brands out there, they were spending much less money on their booths.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back at the booths before COVID and how much money was being spent on those versus after COVID, it's pretty significantly different. I think they've simplified the trade show to a lot, to much more. I don't know what the amount is, and then for a long time you also had the missing big companies. You Davidoff,
right,
General Cigar, Altadis, and Drew Estate. Right, those are guys that were massive exhibitors at PCA every year, and so you didn't have them for 4 years. I think last year, I don't know what the overall vibe or the feelings or the numbers were, but it appeared to be much less than what people expected. I know a couple companies, like second day, they didn't even come into the booth, which was shocking to me, because it's like, if you're spending $30,000 or $40,000 on a booth, I would think you would.
Why your ass is going to be in the booth? Period.
I mean, you might as well get every dollar out of it you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them just didn't even show up, and I talked to a lot of boutique, manufacturers, and they were just kind of shocked at how little was happening, and I've seen that, and I think it's probably a lot of fault of our own too. I think we put we put too many sales expectations on the trade show for what it is. This whole trade show concept's been around for a really long time, and when you talk to the people that went to the trade show in the 90s, and however long before it was the PCA, whether it was the IPCPR or even
I don't remember
that.
what it was before that, but I remember IPCPR, but I don't remember what it was called before that.
Yeah, I think it was IPCPR and RTDA or something like that.
That might
was
be
the
it,
prior incarnation. And you hear of how kind of those trade shows were back then. They're much different to what it is today, but also the times have changed. I mean, you're talking about, let's say in the early 90s, if you're selling cigars, how would you know what cigars are new? How would you know what cigars are out there on the market? It was much harder to maybe communicate with people. Now you have the internet. Now you have much more accessibility. I think, the trade show, it still kind of operates like it's been operating, but the times have changed quite a bit, and the industry has changed quite a bit. So I think what you're seeing now is a reflection of that. It's like, how do you continue to operate something with the same dominance as you did 30 years ago that's in a completely different market today? I think it's just changed. It's very different. If you think about early 90s, the internet probably wasn't even really a thing for most folks, especially when it came to purchasing cigars and emailing and things like that, communications, all that stuff. So yeah, I think this is just a reflection of that. And two, I think in order to have a successful trade show from a brand perspective, you need to have a lot of buyers, right? And the buyers need to be, retailers, distributors, but predominantly retailers. And there's this expectation in the industry that, you have this once a year thing, you give out all these discounts, and hopefully you generate a bunch of sales. And it's weird. It's like, you look at some of the other industries, and not a lot of them do I see as them using trade shows as an opportunity to discount product to sell it. Usually, when I look at some of the other industries, you're using trade shows as a mechanism to announce new products
Right.
and visit with customers. And so yeah, there's some weird disconnects about what this trade show is compared to some of the other industry stuff outside of the industry stuff that I've gone to and I've attended. So yeah, it's interesting. I we'll see what the next 10 years uh, comes down to. We'll see how it looks. I'm sure it will be drastically. I think it will be drastically smaller. I think what happened after COVID and the companies and what they spend on the trade show. I think that will continue to decline,
Hmm.
except for the big few. Some of the big few really, they're enormous entities and they'll probably continue to do that sort of thing. But for boutiques and others, I think it's probably going to be a little bit more realist and a little bit more, does this make business sense and how much should we spend for the trade show, with what expectations, et cetera.
That's an interesting take. Kind of going back to where you said that it almost seems as if the trade show has become an expectation at discount versus an expectation of the companies to show off their shiny new toy. I mean, I was heavily involved in the firearms industry, and our SHOT Show, trade show, every year it's what's the latest and greatest, and can I see
Yeah.
it and can I touch it? And I mean, half the time it wasn't going to be available till later in the year, and you didn't even really even know what the price was. So
Right.
that's actually
Right.
an interesting aspect, and I mean, I'm actually almost kind of embarrassed I never even really looked at it that way, but
Well, yeah. And I
when you
mean,
think
like,
about it,
I look at it.
you're right.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I look at it, I don't, the SHOT Show's huge. And from what I understand, it's an opportunity for retailers to see what's coming out, right? To
Hmm.
get people excited, and then possibly even see about companies that they're not aware of, or actually look and feel and touch things that maybe they wouldn't see normally, right?
Right.
Um, and from my experience on trade shows from the tech industry side, and which is also about meeting customers, potential new customers, and showing off your products.
Hmm.
Um, but our industry is very different in the sense that there's this expectation that the trade show offers a conduit for big sales that one day. But in order to get big sales that one day, there's this expectation of discounting. And so you have this situation where you are uh, you know you're stressing companies in order to spend money in order to discount to sell product. And to me, that all just it kind of like works in reverse. Like it just you're spending more money to get access to how many more customers of which you are
Hmm.
going to discount your products to get them. So that to me, it's weird. I'm not I don't know of other. Of course, I don't know every industry. Maybe that's very commonplace,
Right.
but for this industry, I think it's an odd deal. I think it's a very odd deal.
I mean,
And you get in a
it definitely
race with.
seems it definitely seems unique because I mean, like I said, we talked about SHOT Show. I mean, you said we were tech, so I would assume that you've been to CES. So
Yeah.
I mean, that industry seems to revolve around the what's new and what's shiny, and so does SEMA. So that's kind of
Right.
that's an interesting aspect, and I mean, honestly, I've never really looked at it that way. It's almost like you know the internet and social media and us, it seems like a lot of the new stuff, people have heard about it or seen it or got wind of it before the trade show. So I remember like in the early days, my first couple of years attended a trade show, you heard that there's going to be a new cigar coming or a new product coming out, but you didn't see it until the doors open at the trade show.
Yeah.
Now it seems it's
Yeah.
almost like a lot of that stuff has changed, and you know, to actually see it, you're not going to really see it before the trade show, but you've heard about it, maybe seen pictures, and you know
Yeah.
read 15
Yeah.
articles from us on the media side and everybody else on social media talking about it. So that definitely puts a
Yep.
different spin on it for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and um, it's one thing to, like, at the trade shows, you have these, you have different factions of people, I would say, right? So you have your media, and your media are the people that are coming by, talking with you, publishing it on their websites, and trying to generate consumer interest in the product. Um, but eh, but really, it's like a lot of people, at least on the manufacturing booth side, they're really interested in the retailer, right? Because they're trying to make these
Mm-hmm.
sales. Like this, like the entire trade shows are revolving around how many sales can you make, and so you have this clash, right? You have this struggle between, trying to talk to people that will essentially get my brand out there to all the sites and whatnot, and then also paying for the booth because, you got to generate enough sales to make it worth its while. And then you have a very convoluted system of figuring out from the retailer side, who's a tire kicker and who's an actual purchaser. And that's
Right.
a tough thing as a small company because you don't know anybody, right? So you don't know that there's going to be a faction of people there that have no intention to buy from you. They just want some free cigars,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, that exists, and it's tough because you try to treat everybody the same, and you try to go into the trade show and go, hey, we need to focus in on selling to the right people and stuff, and you just don't know, and it takes you
Mm-hmm.
several trade shows to kind of figure that out, and that's tough, in the trade show business, and particularly with our trade show, it's really difficult to figure that out, and it's a little bit, to be honest, it's a little depressing too. It's a hard thing, because um, you don't have any conception of, you meet people, but you don't have any conception of, well, is this person really interested in my cigars, or is he just interested in getting something for free?
Right.
Um,
So
and
you don't find
uh,
out down the road that you've been taken advantage of or not.
you have no idea, and it happens a lot. I had some folks that I knew that they went to the trade show the first year, and they thought, what, as they should, they thought, we love our cigar, we need to get our cigar in every possible smoker's mouth so that they can taste the cigar and love it, and it was a good cigar, and so they gave out damn near 4,000 cigars of
Oof.
this one same cigar. It's a lot of cigars,
Yes, it
and
is.
they went out of business like in 3 years, and uh, and I mean, not that that was a direct correlation, but I think it's such a tough business, and it's so difficult to identify and connect with the right retailers that will make the right decisions to bring the cigar in, that you can spend a lot of time and effort giving away product. I mean, you know, I'm sure you guys get hit all the time, but in the cigar business, there's not a single day that goes by without some sort of charitable event coming up. you
Oh,
know,
I can
everybody's got some
imagine.
cause.
It does. I mean, we do the big charity event, every year with SmokinTabacco.com, that goes to cigar children's charities. So, that's
Yeah,
definitely, I mean, we ask for that, and definitely getting a lot. I mean, the
yeah,
money goes for a good cause, but I also know,
sure.
that's an unneeded expense that, may or may not have any benefit, as especially to a smaller boutique blend, like Dapper. That's where you really have to
Yeah,
sit and evaluate, is this worth my while to
yeah,
to throw money at or not? So
yeah. That's tough. It's tough for small companies because you're trying to navigate that and trying to figure out if I really do contribute to all these things. Uh, will they move the needle for me? Will the consumer be appreciative enough to go, you know what, man, I really like the fact that they donated to that thing, and that means a lot to me, so I'm going to go ahead and buy
mhm.
a stick or buy a box or whatever. That's the toughest thing. It's very difficult in this business, and I think that's why there's a high failure rate, you know, because of those costs and expenses. So you add that up with the
Right.
trade shows and stuff like that, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's it's tough, and there's not a lot of value to the cigars either. I think we've kind of diminished we've diminished the value of that product. That it's so easy to give out. I think there's this underlying perception that they're just cheap. That they're
Hmm.
nothing. It's like a Snickers bar.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
I know as a consumer, I mean, obviously I'm in the media side of it, but I mean, I'm a consumer, and I buy a lot of cigars a year. I mean, I just do. It's like, I support brands like you. I don't go around looking for handouts. I'll support my B&M. You know, support our sponsors, and we'll buy product from them and kind of support everybody. But as a consumer, one of the important things for me is involvement from the brand owners and the brand principals with the consumer. And that's actually one of the things that I think I've attended a couple of your events, and you're definitely approachable guy. You're there to answer questions about the cigars. You inform consumers, and kind of can, especially if they haven't experienced your brand, you can help steer them to something that most likely they're going to like, and that's huge.
Right.
For consumers to have somebody like you out there that will actually take the time, out of their day to make sure that they're experiencing the brand as they should.
Yeah, it's a tough sales cycle. I mean, it's really difficult, just to even get to the point to where you're in the store to talk to consumers is difficult, and you try to take advantage of that in the sense that you want to connect with as many possible people as you can and try to introduce them to your brand and what your company's about, and hopefully that resonates, and hopefully you just find a spot in their smoking portfolio, right? We never expect or ask people to just smoke only our things or whatnot. You just hope that all that stuff kind of resonates, and when they go to look for a Connecticut shade, you pick up a La Madrina shade every once in a while.
Well, I mean, cigars are definitely experience related, and if just somebody comes to one of your events and has a good experience, the next time they go into that B&M, they're going to remember being there with you and having that experience, and chances are probably pretty good that they're going to come and look for one of your cigars. So that's definitely a big plus.
Yeah.
So I have one more question, and it's like, I hate to delve on like trade show related stuff, but you had mentioned you have roughly four new projects coming out. And it's like, it's always a question, as I've always asked, all of our brand owners when they come on, is with the trade show, did the trade show date moving have any effect or impact on the releases and release dates of anything new that you're working on? Or was that more like supply and demand related than the trade show date moving?
No, I mean, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm kind of over the whole rush everything to meet the trade show date.
Mm-hmm.
So just as my own personal philosophy, I'm just over that. When it's ready, it's ready.
That's very encouraging to hear.
I mean, I think that a lot of folks are. I think the common trait in the industry is that you gotta use that trade show for your release so that you can get pre-orders, which are pre-commitments to sales, that you can then turn around and actualize in the money. That process for me, I mean, we've done that, and that process for me has just been riddled with problems. And so I'm just over that, and I really don't want to chase that. And I'm hoping that these projects are ready before the trade show, and if they're ready before the trade show, and it's actually, we can put the cigar and you can actually smoke the cigar, then you can order the cigar, great. And if that aligns, awesome. If it doesn't align, sorry, just didn't happen at the right time, or the box guy got held up for 2 months because everybody's making boxes right now, and whatever the case it is. But
right.
I think the trade show changing dates probably, definitely put the nail in the coffin for cigars at TPE. What that matters, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like the cigars were a tremendous part of that trade show anyways. It's, I don't know, maybe 1/10 of the trade show.
Or less. It seemed like even smaller this past year.
Yeah, maybe even smaller. Yeah. And so I don't think that's going to impact them greatly or whatnot. And, but I do think it's kind of put a nail in that coffin for them, because I know myself, we've gone to TPE for a number of years. This next year, we're not going back. Last year, talking with a lot of brand owners, they were a little bit let down by just how badly the trade show dates being so close affected that. And so they've kind of, the PCA's kind of said, hey, we're going to make these make the retailers make one decision as to when to which trade show they're going to go, because the retail, I got to look at it from the retailer side too. It's expensive on their side, very expensive.
Oh, absolutely.
They have to travel out. Typically, a lot of them have to fly. Some of them are small businesses, and their shops don't have the staff to maybe completely support everything for a week while they go away. And then three, they're looking to take advantage of deals and spending heavily based on these deals in order to to make more money, hopefully, because the deals are good enough. And so their cash flow gets tremendously hit during that time because they're spending all this money buying all this product, most of the time to which they don't even know will ship. And that happens a lot too. Retailers buy products from all these companies at the trade show. Some of them ship immediately, some of them ship mysteriously, some ship 6 months later, some ship a year later. You hear all the stories about that. So from the retailer perspective, it's definitely no walk in the park as well.
I kind of like your approach, though. I mean, if it's not, if it's not ready, it's not ready, and when it's ready, I'm going to show you what it is, and it'll be available. I mean, that's to me, that's a dedication to your consumer, that you're not going to put a product out there that's not ready to be out, or a product that's that's still young and still needs to age or whatnot. You're going to put the best quality product that you can out there, so when we get our hands on it and light them on fire, we're smoking the best that you have to offer. And I think that's a huge testament.
Yeah, I mean, it's just out of frustration from doing it the other way. I'm not going to say that we didn't do. We of course did it the other way. It's a shit show. We basically rush. And you're rushing it you're rushing the same time everybody's rushing. So when you're yelling at the factory just like everybody is, and you're yelling at the band printer, and you're yelling at the box maker, and everybody's doing it at the same time, because let's face it, humans are humans, and it's not like we're on the ball about being way ahead of the ball game all the time. We procrastinate a lot, and we kind of push things back as far as we can sometimes push them. And when it starts getting 3 months before the trade show, and you're like, oh my God, I gotta get all this stuff done. Well, you're doing it at the same time everybody's doing it, and so it creates a gigantic mess. And then what ultimately ends up suffering is the end consumer maybe getting a product that's not right, or that's not well rested, or all these things that happen. And then if you're not ready to ship that product immediately, chances are a lot of sales will drop off, because some retailers just will not put up with with things being shipped 2 or 3 months or 4 months or 5 months after the fact, which I get that too. So it's kind of one of those things that the only reason we're doing it this way is just I just didn't like. I was burnt out that other way. The other way is, it's had its way with me. I'm done. Moving on to the next way.
In the long run, it's going to benefit you, I think, because I mean, from the media side and the review side, I've actually firsthand had experience with cigars that are supposed to be like the next greatest thing, that it was obvious that they were rushed to release, within a certain time frame. And this cigar that's supposed to be the cat's meow and the next greatest, the next best, thing of rolled up dead leaves, and the cigar sucked. It just wasn't good. So it's actually you want to make sure that you're taking the time to do it right, and not have us say, hey, why'd you guys bring this out? It's terrible. So
I mean, let's just think about it from your perspective too. So there's 100 booths at, I don't know how many booths there are. I'm just going to guess. Let's just say you guys visit 100 cigar vendors in 3 days, and every cigar vendor is going to give you something of what they got,
right? Maybe
multiple things, and you're surrounded by smoke all day long, and all you're doing is smoking all day long, and then you're going to after parties and smoking. And I mean, are you really going to be able to like sit down, enjoy that cigar, and actually think about it and how good it is or isn't? Of course not, right?
No.
And so we expect all these people to do this, and make buying decisions based on this. And it's just, it's kind of like, I don't think this is going to work out.
It's almost just like going, okay, I'm going to like throw a dart. Okay, that's the one I'm going to get.
Or how many cigars How many cigars do you taste? You know, it has a band that says some funky coat on it, and, you know, because the bands weren't ready, and you
Hmm.
try that cigar, and then when it eventually comes in the market, and you go to your store and you pick it up and you smoke it, you're like, I don't remember that, and it's like, is it different, or maybe I was just messed up, or you know, it's just this
Well,
confusing
chances
kind of
are,
mess.
especially here in Vegas, sitting on the trade show floor for a week before you get them, they're definitely going to
Yeah.
taste different than they're supposed to.
Oh, for sure.
So
The cigar's been sitting on a dock, on a hot dock at 110 degrees for 5 days. Yeah, it's going to taste great, right?
been sitting in a warehouse in Fresno for a month.
Right, right. Yeah.
So
So there you
crazy.
go.
So Ian, thank you very much for taking some time with me and working through my first solo night as a host. So it's
You did
definitely
great.
good to see you, man. You know, it's been, man, I think it was 19. I hung out with you at Helios here in Vegas and
Yeah.
got to know each other, and definitely brought home some cigars and even brought home a cool hat. So
Nice. Yeah, I appreciate you guys
definitely,
finally having me on. You know, it was
yeah, it's
great. I appreciate looking forward to seeing both of you guys at the trade show and chopping it up, and hopefully on the road too.
yes, sir. So guys, thank you, thanks everybody for watching. Ian, again, thank you for joining us, guys. Get out to your B&Ms and check out Dapper Cigars. And
Thanks,
everybody
guys.
have a